The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of the Association for Software Testing, its management, sponsors, or staff. Katrina Clokie, yes?
Yes.
Is joining us. Katrina and Dee and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, I think so.
About this. And I gave you an option today.
You did.
I did. And you can tell that I gave you an option because my note cards for Katrina are blank. I didn't know which way we were going to go. So it's player's choice. Katrina shared with us that she was really passionate about communities and building communities, and that was one of the topics we discussed.
It was.
Or we could vector to your talk today.
Yes,
so
we could.
What say you?
I hate decisions,
so hard.
So this is probably going to be the worst part of this whole interview experience, is deciding.
Pressure's on.
Let's do community, because I know we talked about it beforehand.
Fantastic. Good choice, because we've had people ask about community.
Hooray.
Yay. So this will be helpful. This is good. So one of the things you said you're passionate about, and you're from New Zealand, yes?
I am.
Okay. And you said that you're trying to build community in New Zealand. So why don't you share with us what sorts of things you're working on at the moment?
Cool. So in October of 2011, Aaron Hodder and I set up a group in Wellington, which is the city of New Zealand that I'm from. We called it We Test Workshops. And we wanted to create a community that was experiencing a peer workshop format on a regular basis. So it came about as a result of attending the Kiwi workshop on software testing, which is an invite-only peer conference format. And we wanted to make it available to more people. So we wanted to grow that kind of environment in our town. So it's been running for almost 2 years. We now have over 200 members, and it's getting
fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good. It's been nationally syndicated, so ooh sounds fancy. So there's a We Test event in Auckland now as well, which is another city in New Zealand, and that's really popular as well. And so now we're at a point where we advertise our workshops, and they fill up really fast, and we don't want to make it invite-only for those events, because the whole purpose of having them was to get more people along, but we don't want to make them too big either, or we lose kind of that interactive nature of them.
So what's the size? So the invite-only version is limited to how many people?
20 as a max.
20.
So for the Kiwi workshop on software testing. For our We Test events, we've tried to push the boundaries of that, so we've had up to 30, and that's kind of the point where we don't comfortably feel we can get much bigger than that, because people don't get the opportunity to contribute that they would get in a smaller group.
And so the invite-only event started first, and then the open event is now gaining momentum, steam, what have you.
Yep.
And one of the things that we had talked about when we were working through this was kind of your interest in embracing people and trying to bring them in a positive way. So what sorts of things do you think are important to do that? I mean, trying to figure out where I want to go with this. I mean,
so how do I bring people in?
Yeah, how are you so successful with bringing people in?
So I've heard people talk about greeters, and I can't remember the context that
was James.
Is it James?
James calls people greeters.
He has identified roles within the community, and I haven't latched on to any of the other terms that he mentioned, but greeters is a nice one. So I think recognizing when people are coming to their first workshop, approaching them and saying, hey, thanks for coming. Just the basic courtesy and etiquette. We always run through the instructions. We go around the room at the start of these things, so people can say, it's my first night. They can find out there's quite a few people that it's their first night. We have a social aspect to it, so in the middle of the workshop we break for pizza. People get the opportunity to create kind of those individual one-on-one friendships and bonds, and I think after their first event, we get a really high retention rate because people feel welcomed. They find people to personally interact with, and they feel like we're a good way to become part of a community, just by being welcoming. And yeah.
So how do people, so you have a couple of events going, and so how do people then interact in between events?
So we're not very good at that. We have an event.
That's harder.
It is harder. We have an event every 6 weeks.
Okay.
And at the end of the year, we run a weekend workshop afternoon. So we have a full kind of 5-6 hour thing, where it's sort of a mini cast in some respects.
Yeah.
Between those events, we have very little. So we have kind of a notification-based mailing list, but we don't have any kind of active discussion forums. Some of the people are on Twitter, which I think is a standard kind of place for
Except
testing.
for D. D is not on Twitter.
I know.
This keeps coming up as a topic.
I know. I'm also not in New Zealand.
That's true.
But I want to be sometime.
I'll give you my
I think.
card.
That will be good.
So these open events, if I'm a new attendee, what can I expect? Is it a single person talking? Is it kind of like what we've seen on the live stream the last couple of days? I mean, what can I expect as an attendee?
Great question.
I try.
We run them the same format as the Kiwi workshop on software testing.
Okay.
So the difference between that and the cast format is that our experience reports are a lot shorter, and they have to be experience reports, so something that you've personally done. You're talking about your role, your work, some aspect of it. We cap it quite short, so 10 to 15 minutes, and the idea is that it's just to seed the conversation.
Okay.
And then we run 45 minutes of open season, so the card format. We have a break for pizza, and then depending on how many more threads we have to get through, we can run up to another hour.
Wow.
So it's quite an intensive discussion on just one topic.
Okay.
And can any participant present an experience report, or do you have to submit something in advance? Or?
At the moment, we're still at the point of shoulder tapping people and asking them very nicely if they might like to come and do it.
Sure.
We have called for proposals for our weekend event, and we've had a really good response to that. And while I've been in New York, Aaron has been advising the successful people of, yay, come and speak. So that's been really good to get some new people that we didn't know about, so we can shoulder tap them in future to get them to speak. We haven't yet run kind of a lightning talk night, but I would like to try that sometime.
That might be interesting.
Just to get some new people who might not volunteer in advance, but if they got kind of a bit of a push, maybe if they came, they might stand up and speak for a bit. So the Auckland We Test have done that, and it's been quite successful. So,
and this actually ties into something that Karen Johnson spoke with us about last night. She talked about how there's a lot of stories and there's a lot of people that have things to say, but maybe as testers they're too shy or timid, or they don't feel like they're dynamic enough to speak. Yeah. And it sounds like this experience report model would be approachable, because is it just success stories, or is it success and failures? Or
we get war stories as well.
Okay.
And I think from a timidity perspective, we find that having a really long open season, as it's called here, means that in that second part, after we've had pizza and people are feeling a bit more relaxed, there's some alcoholic beverages as well.
Oh, some lubrication.
Yeah. By the end of the night, we've usually seen at least one card from everyone in the room. So it's the newer people who wait to kind of the later they know how it works.
See how it all goes.
Yeah, they've talked to
Make sure
people
they're
at the
not
break.
Attacked.
Yeah. So I think it's nice to have that extended period of time for people to get really comfortable with it and then to participate. And hopefully more and more that participation will turn into speaking at a lightning talk or 10 to 15 minute, and then they propose to cast and come over here.
More than welcome.
Great. Yeah.
We love experience reports. I can't get enough experience reports. That's so important. Absolutely. So you've seen a lot of success. It's an interesting format. It's a lot like the law style format, which is what AST has done a lot of workshops like that. And it sounds like it's starting to explode in your area. So if I'm someone new and I wanted to kind of replicate or try to replicate your model, are there some tips or some things that I need to consider, or even some things that were kind of failures that you learned from that you don't do anymore?
So from the
That was
beginning,
like 12 questions,
I'm
Ben.
sorry.
That's really
So
not
let's start
fair.
with tips.
tips for
If
starting
I'm
a new
new
one.
and I'm starting
If
new,
I wanted
what
to-
would I
yeah,
need?
I want to start a group in Chicago. Where do I start?
So we had the Kiwi workshop on software testing. From that group of 20, there were about 4 in Wellington, New Zealand. So when we started off, Oliver Illwine, Brian Osman, myself, Aaron, we had contacts within the group. So to get to 20 for our first workshop took almost 6 weeks of just harassing people and being like, I promise this will be fun, please. You'll really
awesome.
like it. Like, I know it's after work and it seems like a commitment, but it'll be cool. So it was a fight for the first one. Once people come and they're engaged and they're enjoying it, then it starts to become far less effort. So it was very quick that we didn't have to prod people were coming to us instead. So because we had little pockets from around our city, those people then told the people that they knew. And being on Meetup as well, Meetup starts to suggest your Meetup to other people who have joined. We've got a big Agile group that use Meetup as well in our city. So once we got a few testers joining from the Meetup, the Agile Meetup, it started advertising to the Agile crowd that we were here, and so we got some people coming in that way. And so to start it off, start it with a core group, spread the word through your immediate network, ... profit.
And for the win.
Yeah.
What should I avoid?
So things to avoid. We've had things to avoid. Experience reports that go too long. Because it limits the opportunity for that conversation to occur.
Right.
Anything that feels too much like a presentation. So we would always try and keep that collaborative aspect to it. PowerPoint. We've found that removing PowerPoint means that people are kind of more engaged and it feels more like a conversation than a presentation. Weird. I don't know. There's maybe some psychology around that.
Yeah.
Pizza with onions. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Can I what's the long-term goal? Like, where do you want to see this in the next year, 2, 10?
Yeah. So
I know 10 years.
Apparently
That's a
the
really long
microphone's
time.
for me, getting new people in to run it. So we've already started doing that. So I'm going to do some more name dropping. Joanna Yip and Adam Howard, Rupert Burden and Craig McCurdy. Yeah, you guys are awesome. So just giving people jobs, getting them to run some of the events, new facilitators, so to practice doing that. I would like to see it scale. I'm still not sure how we're going to do that. So I want the 200 people to get bigger and for it to still feel
Small.
intimate and
Right.
collaborative and awesome. So
Yeah.
we've got a little bit of a challenge with that, I think, but we'll make something work.
And don't feel bad. That's actually a challenge that AST has as a whole, right? This
I'm
year.
in good company.
That's right. 250 people. We weren't sure how it's going to work, and it actually went quite well. So there's hope on the horizon for both of us.
A shining beacon.
Which is fantastic. Did you have anything else?
No, that was my last question.
What did we forget? Anything?
I have no idea.
Fair enough. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for covering this. I think a
No
lot of
problem.
people will benefit from this. And I personally think that having communities of testers getting together and talking about real testing and sharing their experiences is so important, and I would love to see more of it. So what you're
me
doing is
too.
fantastic.
Thanks.
So
And you would love to see that in New Zealand.
that's
sometime.
right.
I know I would.
I wouldn't mind being flown to New Zealand for that.
I know, right?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't mind at all. So
When
thank you.
when we eventually get that kind of budget,
That's
I'll
right.
let you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so
problem.
much.
Thank you
Enjoy
for
the rest of
having
the
me.
evening.
Cool.
And thank you for attending CAST.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right.
Bye.